Hello, everyone, and welcome to this, the latest episode in Book Time with Elvis, with me, Mark. It's a pleasure to see you all here again. I'm making this video in response to a tag I received from Vin over at Revenant Reads, and this is the last 10 book tags. So we'll jump right in. Question number 1. The last book you didn't finish. Well, I'm not one for really not finishing books. I may delay the finish of them, or I will come back to them later. But certainly the last one I've yet to finish, but I do plan to do so in the future. And it is this book by Eleanor Catton, which is The Luminaries. It's a 2013 Man Booker Prize winner, and it's as you can see, it's a very large book. It's set in New Zealand in 1866, and it's about a series of unsolved crimes, and it all revolves around, by the looks of it, from what I remember, you see, it didn't leave a big impression on me then, but I do plan to go back to reading it and getting it finished sometime. I'm sure it can't be that bad. I don't remember it being particularly bad. It was just a combination of the size of it. I'd become so used to reading electronically for reasons I mentioned earlier, and then trying to tackle a really large paperback. And I do find, as I get older, I'm hardly ancient, but I do find the smaller print a bit harder to read. But maybe I'll read it, perhaps in electronic version, and it may be easier to do so. I'll read the back to you. Maybe some of you might find it interesting. It is 1866, and Walter Moody has come to make his fortune upon the New Zealand goldfields. On the night of his arrival, he stumbles across a tense gathering of 12 local men who have met in secret to discuss a series of unsolved crimes. A wealthy man has vanished, a whore has tried to end her life, and an enormous fortune has been discovered in the home of a luckless drunk. Moody is soon drawn into the mystery, a network of fates and fortunes that is as complex and exquisitely patterned as the night sky. Sounds great. Now I kind of want to reread it again. Well, attempt it again, I should say. But yeah, so the last book I didn't finish was this one. Sorry, long answer, wasn't it? I'll try and keep them a bit shorter. The last book you reread, so that's question number 2. What was the last book I reread? The last book I reread, well, you could ask me this almost any time of year, and it will probably be Treasure Island. I've mentioned it in previous videos. It's one of my most favourite books, and I tend to read it every summer, so that would be the last book I reread. The last book I bought, well, I bought 2 books together. I've yet to read them. The first one is this one, Lotharingia. It's very difficult for me to say that. Lotharingia. And it's by Simon Winder. And Simon Winder has written 2 other books that I have read. Germania, which is kind of like a personal history and history of Germany, and Danubia, which kind of looks at the history of the Habsburg lands, part of which, of course, I'm living in. And this one kind of looks at the area known as Lotharingia, and these people today would be known as a mix of Dutch, Germans, Belgians, French, Luxembourgers, etc. So it will be a kind of history and partly, I would say, personal history as well, because he has, he discusses his own travels around these places in these books. So I look forward to reading that at some point. And the other book I bought is also related, I suppose, to where I live, or at least the country I live in. I mean, I don't live in Prague, but this is H, and it is the story of Operation Anthropoid, which was the Allied plan to assassinate the Reichsprotector Reinhard Heydrich in Prague during the Second World War. And this book, it's supposed to be extremely interesting. Maybe I'll read the back to you on this one, because it seems like it has some complexity to it. So this is Operation Anthropoid, Prague, 1942. 2 Czechoslovakian parachutists set on a daring mission by London to assassinate Reinhard Heydrich, chief of the Nazi secret services. His boss is Heinrich Himmler, but everyone in the SS says Himmler's brain is called Heydrich, which in German spells out HHHH. All the characters in HHHH are real. All the events depicted are true. But alongside the nerve-shredding preparations for the attack runs another story. When you are a novelist writing about real people, how do you resist the temptation to make things up? So this is the last book I bought along with this one. I bought them together, so can't really choose between them, but looks good, doesn't it? Next question number 4. The last book you said you read but didn't. Well, like everybody else on here, I'm not one to do this intentionally, perhaps. And if I did ever do it intentionally, it was a long time ago, and I have a feeling it was probably to do with schoolwork. And it was very likely Oliver Twist, I think, because I was studying it at 16. I had other things on my mind, and we were told to read it. And I remember kind of, going through it a bit, but then someone gave me the audio cassettes and I listened to that and then pretended perhaps that I had read it. However, to redeem myself, I have since read it and thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah, and I certainly wouldn't make that mistake in my, older and wiser years. But yes, the last book you wrote in the margins of, well, again, I don't really do this. I quite like my books not to be defaced in any way where possible. If I need to write something down, I have a notebook in which to do so. And if I, as I said, I read quite often electronically. So using the Kindle, it's very easy to highlight text and make notes in that without obviously damaging the book. Though, of course, it's your choice whether you do it or not. I'm not, saying one way or the other whether it's good or bad. Yes. So, the last book you had signed, question number 6. Well, I'm not one to have books signed, really. And in fact, I think the last book I had signed was the only book I had signed. And it was the book Wellington, The Iron Duke, by an English historian, Richard Holmes. And I'd been given the book by a very good friend of mine for my birthday. And he had written a nice inscription in it. And then he said to me, I think it was later on that day or a couple of days later, that Richard Holmes was giving a talk in our local branch of Waterstones, which is an English, chain bookshop. And so we went along and then listened to him speak, and it was really interesting, of course. And he signed my copy, so it's very nice. I have a nice inscription by the author, and I have a nice inscription by a good friend of mine, unfortunately at home in the UK, not with me. The last book I lost, question number 7. Well, as I mentioned in my newbie video, most of my books are not with me due to the fact, obviously, I live out of my home country, and that the books were at the family home, and the family home has since moved. I'm pretty sure a few books have gone missing, understandably, I suppose, that my parents probably didn't want to transport everything with them. We did try to go through it, but whether or not they threw away or gave away the right ones and kept the wrong ones or vice versa remains to be seen, but I can't blame them. The last book you had to replace, question number 8. The last book I had to replace was Volume 1 of John Julius Norwich's Byzantium, or History of Byzantium trilogy. I love these books. And I lent Volume 1 to a friend, and that friend lost it. And actually, that will also help me answer question number 9, which is the last book you had an argument over, and it would be the same answer, Volume 1 of John Julius Norwich's History of Byzantium. I had an argument with my friend over the fact he didn't take care of it and lost it, because it was quite dear to me, and I didn't really want to lend it to him in the first place. But in terms of like the context of the books, I haven't really had any arguments that I remember. Discussions, of course, but arguments not really. I respect anybody's opinion as to what they think of any book they read. So yes, 8 and 9, the last book you had to replace and the last book you had an argument over would be the same thing and the same reason. Number 10, the last book you couldn't get a hold of, and that would be A History of Japan in 3 volumes by George Sansom. I bought this book, or 3 books rather, in a nice presentation box, beautiful editions. I bought them while living in Japan, and then when I left, I'd left them with friends to send on at a later date, and then, time moves on before I realized, I had to have them sent. I believe they would also either disappeared or, you can't expect people to hold things for you forever, I suppose. Gosh, it's terrible, isn't it? I seem to leave a trail of books anywhere I go, so that's not good. But anyway, it was this History of Japan in 3 volumes by George Sansom, and it was a beautiful set of books. I was able eventually to replace them on, I think it was eBay a few years ago. Not as nice editions, but still, I've got the books, and who knows, perhaps one day the originals will turn up again. Okay, I should say, and I completely forgot at the beginning, you can see how new I am to all of this, that the original poster of the last 10 book tags was Marc Nash, and I was, as I said, kindly tagged to do this by Vin from Revenant Reads. And I will tag, it's very difficult for me being so new, knowing who's done what, but I will tag in this Michael K Vaughan. I had a look at his channel and I see he hasn't done it yet, and perhaps he would like to do so. So thank you very much for listening. Look forward to seeing you all again soon, and I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye bye.